It's Thursday night, and we're here again, live streaming to you around the world. I thought I'd put on some mood lighting today, a little bit darker, a little something more deeper, maybe something even more sinister. That's enough now. Let's turn the lights on, and then we're going to roll. What's going on, everyone? It's another Thursday night. Welcome. Thank you for coming in and tuning in and spending another Thursday. It's a challenge, I know, today, because like today is actually really pretty warm. Here in Baltimore, it's like 70 plus degrees. I think outside right now, even though it's dark, it's like 70. I mean, I can wear shorts and t-shirt outside. It's pretty warm, so I get it if you're outside watching, smoking your cigars and doing your thing. I get it. I totally get it. So anyway, we're here again, and it's another Thursday, and tonight what are we doing? We'll be smoking the PCA Exclusive from Illusione Cigars, and then we'll also be drinking the Fenix Feliz, the St. Patrick's Day coffee that we do every year for Spro. And I should do the video last week, so I'm not going to show you that this week. That would just be superfluous. Maybe we'll do that next week. I don't know. But anyway, so let's get to brewing right away, as always. And tonight, like last week, we made this coffee with the French press, right? So this week, we're going to be making it with the Chemex. And the Chemex was it's one of the more, I guess it's a pretty popular brewer. It's designed in 1941 by this guy Schlumbaum up in Massachusetts, he was in New York City. And it was such a popular type of brewer that the design is super iconic that the original version of this has actually been added to the permanent collection of the Museum of Modern Art. Now this is the one we use at the shop. It's a glass-handled Chemex. The one that's actually in the Museum of Modern Art is actually hand-blown glass that has this wood collar with wrapped in leather. So it's really traditional. This one is more modern. It's not hand-blown glass. This is, machine-made glass with a handle. And we use this at the shop because it's much more simple to control and brew with. More importantly, it's easier to clean, right? So, really simple. Again, it's not terribly difficult to brew with these things. It comes with a paper filter. And so you're going to use the paper filter that Chemex makes, because really the Chemex, while the Chemex is known for the shape, it's the filter that makes the difference. So if you don't use the filter, you're not really brewing Chemex. You're just using, this shaped glass thing. So use the Chemex filter. Now, whether you like the flavor or not, that's a whole different story. That's up to you to decide. So, it's just basically this big sheet, right? So you got this big sheet, and it's folded into. It has two folds, so it folds to this smaller thing. So you grab the 3 plies, right? So you have a pocket. You leave 3 plies on one end and a single ply on the other, and you have this pocket. Put the 3 plies on the side of the spout. Right, and then you add your ground coffee. So medium ground coffee. Since we're making a typical coffee for us, 12 ounces, we're using 24 grams of our Fenix Feliz. Right. Get that online. OnoLive, 10% off, sprocoffee.com. And now we're going to add the hot water. So we're going to take our water kettle. Add hot water to it. And I just take it off the boil. You don't have to make it too fancy or anything. So like I said, thanks for tuning in, and let me know what you're smoking and drinking and where you are tonight. Are you outside, inside? Drop those comments down in the comments below, of course, or on the live comments to the right. Yeah. All right, so we're going to add the water. We're just going to add a little bit just to wet the coffee down. I should probably put this here so you can see it, yeah? There we go, much better. So that's going to give us our coffee bloom, and then we're going to use the stream of water to basically push it down and hydrate the entire coffee ground set. And then we're going to let it flow through. What we're looking for is about about 3 minutes, 30 seconds to 4 minutes total extraction time. That's the ideal. And add a little bit more here. So we're going to use a total of about 350 milliliters, or grams, same thing, of water to brew the coffee. Get higher. There we go. That's a little bit better. That's better. So how's your guys' week been? It's been a good week. This week in Baltimore's been kind of nice, you know, starting on, I guess, Tuesday, Wednesday, and today, Thursday. It's been relatively warm, you know. Yeah, it's been relatively warm, like 60s, today 70s, so that's been quite pleasant. Of course, tomorrow they say it's going to go back down to 50s. What are you going to do? But one thing that I did get secured, we're going to be doing, I mentioned this in previous live streams, where we're going to have Michael King from Aganor Salif come on the show, join us and talk about their cigar. And so now we've got that all squared away. He's going to come in April. Towards the end of April, we're going to set the date next week, like make the big announcement for the actual date. But we have got the cigar ready. It's going to be the Aganorsa Rare Leaf Reserve Robusto, and it's going to come with the 2 tasting sticks as well. So you got a total of 3 cigars, and Raul's going to have that from Tobacco Leaf for $23, shipped anywhere in the country. So you'll be able to order it from wherever you are, and he'll send it out to you in time for the show. But if you happen to stop in, it's only $15 if you don't need shipping. So $23 with shipping anywhere in the U.S., or $15 if you happen to come into the shop at Jessup. But if you are going to come to the shop at Jessup, do just let Raul know that you're going to come pick it up, and they'll be ready by a certain date. All right, so it's brewing nicely. How are we doing? I can't really see. I am kind of brewing blind at the moment, but I think that's pretty much it. So we're going to let that, as you can see, it just flows down. It's really quite a simple kind of brewing, you know, nothing too, okay, there, now it's starting to do the drip. So we are just about done now. As you can see, it looks good. Okay, all right. Let's get rid of the... All right, so here's the brew, already finished. Look at that, looking good, looking good. We're going to use our glass. All right, all right, all right, all right. Let's have a taste now. So like I was saying last week with this coffee, this Fenix Feliz, this is actually a coffee that we infuse with Teeling whiskey, for the Irish whiskey, for St. Patrick's Day. So we only release it in March every year. And it sells fairly well, you know, so we thought we'd do it one more week here. And it's a fun one. You can taste the whiskey, the Teeling whiskey, balanced with the coffee. And the coffee, we wanted to choose something that was a little bit on the lighter side, a little bit more neutral, but not too heavy. Like I didn't want to find a coffee that was really heavy with the chocolate notes, because that would combat with the Teeling, right? So I think it's very complimentary. It's a lighter, it's a washed coffee. It's very clear. Mm. Nice. All right, so that's good. We're going to now move into our cigar of the day because we don't want to spend too long on it. So again, cigars come from Tobacco Leaf in Jessup. I go there every couple weeks, every few weeks, maybe once a month, and I pick up a whole bunch of cigars. I buy a bunch of cigars for the show, pay full retail price, that way I can bitch and moan about them as I please. And so this is the Illusione. Can you see that? Is it gonna focus? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe it needs to get out of the way. There we go. So this is it. This is the Cigars Privé. This is the Illusione PCA Exclusive for 2020. It's a double Robusto, soft box pressed, made by Aganorsa Leaf in Nicaragua. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Illusione. Illusione is this interesting cigar brand that is run by a guy named Dion Giolito. And Dion has his own cigar shop in Reno, Nevada. And he decided to start, he was a big passionate guy, so he started making his own cigars. And as far as I know, he's been working with Aganorsa and Eduardo Fernandez for, I think, for the entirety of his production for Illusione. And Illusione kind of has this whole like Area 52 kind of vibe to it, like secrecy. It's kind of, he's got some interesting stuff. I really kind of enjoy it. Oh, and so Brian's asking, how do I get the list of cigars or will tobacco? So I've got the list of cigars down in the show notes below. That'll be coming up. I've got, there's actually more scheduled. I'm kind of holding off on putting out the April schedule because I'm waiting to hear back from Michael King to really finalize the date that he's going to be on the show, because it's got his appearance and the Aganorsa will be smoked in April for sure. And I think I'm actually trying to push it later into April, maybe the 3rd or 4th week of April. That way it gives enough time for everyone to get the cigar and get ready. And yeah, so that's going to be, that's where that is. So if you look down below, I've got the listings out to, how far do we go on the listings today? Oh, where are they? Yeah, I have it listed out to until the end of the month, really. So it's really the next 2 weeks. The CAO Arcana Mortal Coil Toro for next week, and then the week after that is the Punch Kung Pao Toro. And then April 1st, I haven't quite decided what we're going to do for April 1st, but that's going to be, I'll have that all listed out for next week. And then after that, we've got a whole bunch of cigars that are actually kind of interesting. They are black-owned brands that are somewhat relatively unheard of in a lot of respects. So I managed to get a bunch of them to give them a try. And, you know, it's not really like there's much difference, meaning that while they're black-owned brands, they are actually made, of course, by, you know, all of the normal Cuban makers. So they should be quite enjoyable. But it'll be an interesting exploration of cigars that I personally never heard of. So, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Should be interesting. Well, you know what? I should have given you some last week, Brian. I totally didn't think about it. I thought about it, and then by the time that I remembered, I was like, oh, crap, that was over. It was like the day later. But, you know, I'll make sure we get some for you. Not a problem. All right, so the cigars, this is the Illusione. Let's have a look at the yeah, that's for sure. That would be I think it'd be really interesting to see these. I think it'd be really interesting to try these cigars. Maybe just because, you know, there's going to be maybe a different interpretation of flavor, right? So if we have people, like, let's say if they're white owned, right? Like, let's say Dion's, right? So, or Pete, or anyone that perhaps they have a particular palate that is a certain way, while as a black-owned company may have a different palate, meaning that the foods that they're used to eating, that the foods that are their soul foods, like the stuff from their childhood, the stuff that really influences them, might be different. And I wonder, would that have an impact on the way that they blend their cigars? I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out. Anyway, so back to this one. It actually feels really, really nice. Like, the wrapper feels really silky. It's got a nice, it says, what I read, it says a soft box press, but this is a pretty solid box press on it, and which I like. I like the box press Robustos a lot, and it's got a pretty band. The band is attractive. They're Cigars Privé. Evidently, this was a band that Dion started when he started doing store exclusives, but now I guess they throw it on any kind of small batch project that they're using, but it does feel really silky. God, it feels silky. It really feels nice. Really feels nice. And so Brian's asking, is Pete so inked up? Can we still? Yes, I think so. You know, it's interesting. Actually, he was just posting on Facebook yesterday that he feels that he's Cuban now because he's been in Miami for so long. You know, I don't know if he's been dating Yanni Garcia, so I don't know if that has much to do with it, you know. But anyway, but it's interesting. Actually, one of the interesting things that I remember one time we were hanging out, Pete and I, and you know, Pete used to have all these rings and bracelets and all kinds of accoutrements, and one day he wasn't wearing them. I was like, hey man, what happened to all your, if you just got to dress, maybe he was wearing a black shirt and maybe like a blazer. He was looking, you know, his look had changed from that rocker that he'd always been. And I was like, hey man, what's going on? And he's like, well, you know, he told me that one day he was out, because evidently a lot of people like to copy his look, that whole rocker look, right? Especially his cigar fans, you know, Tatuaya fans. And so I think he was telling me one day he was out and he ran into some guy that was a fan that was duded up just like him, tattoos and all this gear. And he kind of said he was a little bit off-put by it. Like, he was like, oh my gosh, maybe that's too much. Like, you know. I mean, I guess when you have a fandom, there's going to be, like, it's going to be strange. I mean, it's, like, I remember years ago when I was doing a podcast in the coffee business. At the time, it was probably the first podcast in coffee, so it was very widely listened to. And I remember that one day I was out with my co-host, and we were at some event somewhere, some coffee event. And this guy comes up to us, and he starts talking to us, and he starts making jokes. And, like, you know, when you're with your friends, like people that you're really close to, like, you'll joke and you'll talk to each other in a very certain way. One that may be like flippant, one that might be rude, slightly risque, that you would only talk that way with people that you're really tight with. And this guy was making that kind of jokes with us, you know, that kind of like just borderline risque kind of jokes. And it was really like, and I remember my first reaction was like, what is this all about? But I had to take I stepped back for a moment. I thought to myself, okay, wait, I'm not going to be offended by this, but I have to remember that, okay, so by this point we've been doing, like, we had done like 50 episodes over like 2 years. And each of our episodes on the podcast were like 2 hours long. So it's a long form, like radio drive, morning drive podcast. So by this point, if you've listened to all of our shows, you've listened to easily 100 hours of my co-host and I just bantering back and forth, making ridiculous discussion. And so this guy was like talking to us, like he knew, like he really knew us. Like we were people that he knew, that he felt very comfortable with. But the reality was that he knew us, but we didn't know him. And it was like, when he started making these jokes, it was like, oh. It was cool, but you know, you just got to remember that people that watch, that they were listening, they had a different relationship with you than you have with them. That was all. But anyway, so let's get to it. It looks great, right? A little splotchy maybe, but it feels, man, of all the cigars I've smoked on this show, this really has a beautiful, like, feeling. It just feels great. It's got a nice cedary, spicy, tobacco. You know that really nice, sweet, kind of like enjoyable light spiced tobacco aroma. That's this. That is this. All right, let's do the cutting now. We're going to cut the cap. Oh. Someday I'll get it straight. It's more or less straight, whatever. So the draw is smooth, a little bit tight. Not tight, but that feeling of just right tightness. There's a bit of sweetness. Man, there's this really cognac-y, maybe. It's got nice flavor, nice cold draw flavor. Nice flavor on the tongue. On the cold draw, there's a little bit of spiciness right here in the back of the throat. You know, yeah, like cognac. There's a kind of a cognac sweetness to it. Now, here's the thing. Like, we've seen in movies where people like Clint Eastwood walking around in his westerns chewing on a cigar the whole time, but never lighting it. Right now, this cigar has a nice flavor on the palate. Man, this would be enjoyable just to hold and smoke, and not even smoke, but just to like hang out. We're like, yeah, baby, uh-huh. Like you could sit here all day and just kind of, like my old friend Victor's father, he used to do that when we were young, when we were children. He would just kind of walk around, unlit cigar. Yeah, if cigars tasted like this, that would be worth it. All right, but we're here to smoke. We're not here to like just chew on a cigar. So we're going to use the jet line. We're going to go back to this. Look at that. Look at that. That's just ridiculous. So we're going to go. You know, for all the force, it's. I'm surprised how close you have to get to it. Oh, there we go. Ooh, it's a little bit hard to control. There's some interesting aromas just of the smoke. Singeing aromas. Maybe that's just because the flame's so darn hot. Okay, there we go. So we're all lit up. Okay, now we're rolling. So, what are you guys smoking tonight? Drop those in the comments. Let me know what you're smoking. Let me know what you're drinking. Are you outside? Because I don't know how it is where you guys are, but here in Baltimore, it's beautiful outside. If I had a mobile setup, I'd probably be outside. All right, so starting off nice. Again, we're smoking the PCA Exclusive from Illusione. Oh, I just realized that I spelled Illusione wrong. There should not be an I at the end of Illusione. It's not ne, it's ne. It's got nice flavor. Spicy. Maybe some cedar. Good, tobacco, general tobacco, nice tobacco-ness to the cigar. Okay, look at that. That's nice. Starting off, all right. Burns a little bit uneven, but I think that's, I don't know what that is. That's like, looks like some kind of, oh, that's a crack. I keep it in the bags and I keep it with the Bovedas, but still there's cracks. Starting off with good flavor. But let's go and see what other guys think. Like, let's go look at Half Wheel again. Love to look at Half Wheel. You know, people might just start thinking I'm trying to assassinate Half Wheel. But you know what? I do find Half Wheel to be kind of interesting. You know, they have some interesting stuff to say. And they're probably one of the really few outlets that actually do regular kinds of, you know, commentary. So George is out there sitting on the balcony in shorts with some Diet cranberry juice. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I wish the weather would. Unfortunately, tomorrow they say it's going to go back down to like 50s. So that's kind of sad. So if you got the chance, definitely get outside and raise the windows and do your thing. All right, so let's have a look. Yeah, let's make it bigger. All right, so we've got so Brooks Whittington did this back in November. And here's the interesting thing. So this was a cigar that was supposed to be released for the PCA show last July. And PCA, for those who may not be familiar, is the Premium Cigar Association. It used to be called the RTDA, the Retail Tobacco Dealers Association, many, many years ago. And then they changed their name to the IPCPR, which is International Premium, whatever that means, who knows. They have a problem with these acronyms that, you know, it just makes it more complicated than it needs to be. And so this cigar was supposed to be released during the show, and you're only, as a retailer, you were only be able to buy this at the show, right? So it was supposed to be a show exclusive. And one of the things about the industry that's been, you know, problematic for a lot of the, well, I don't know if it's problematic for, but basically manufacturers have been selling cigars as show specials, not just at the show. You get the show special at the show, of course, but if you didn't want to go to the show and you wanted to stay at home and you could still get the show special for the manufacturer. So there's been a group of manufacturers that are trying to, you know, encourage, put an end to that. They're trying to encourage people to come to the show, support the trade show, because, you know, I go to a few trade shows, you know, per year, and I'll go to the PCA show. It is a trade industry show, but I go, and we're talking about a big venue like the Sands Convention Center or the Las Vegas Convention. These are big, big venues, hundreds of thousands of square feet. And there, you know, when you compare them to other trade shows you go to as far as like capacity of attendees, it's never crowded. Like, I never have gone I've been going fairly regularly for the last like 6-7 years, and it has never been very crowded. Like, there may be 1 hour for one day where it sort of feels crowded, but it's not like other trade shows where it's just madness. This one is kind of like, you're just strolling. Like, it's not difficult. So, I don't know, they say the attendance has not been very good, and so they want people to come, and so they're trying to get manufacturers to give show specials just during the show. And so that's what Dion's trying to do here with this. So the thing about that is that we've got the exclusive, and so, yeah, so they canceled the trade show because, of course, COVID. And so in order to try to give that feeling of trade show only purchasing, you could only buy this cigar during Zoom sales sessions on 2 days, July 13th and 14th. And so that's how this came about. And it comes in packs of 10 in this blue bundle wrapper, right? So nice. There it is. And so, you know, but But here's the thing. So I know we talk a lot on this show about scoring, but this is one where I thought was quite interesting. If maybe even also a little bit disappointing. So Brooks Whittington in this review gave the cigar a 92, right? We've seen 93s, right, in previous shows for different cigars. But let's look at what he says here. He says, sweet, creamy, complex, balanced nuances, right? A little bit later down, he says, fifth or sixth sentence down, in fact, this is a superbly balanced flavor bomb of epic proportions. And then just around amount of spice and white pepper to enhance the blend instead of distracting it. This exclusive is easily one of the best cigars I've smoked this year. I mean, okay, so he's got some superlatives going on, right? Sweet, creamy, complex, balanced, nuanced. What else he's saying? Superbly balanced flavor bomb of epic proportions. How much more glowing can you possibly write about a cigar? And you only give it a 92. This does not, when we talk about like the descriptions, this to me doesn't sound like, I mean, I think, I'm sorry, let me rewind that. These descriptives, I think 92, okay, I get it. But I would think that maybe with these kind of descriptions, you would have given it a higher score, 93, 94, 95, 96. I mean, what more else do you want out of a cigar? If that's how you describe it, you know? Easily one of the best cigars I've smoked this year. And this is in November of last year. So Brooks has smoked through the entirety of his year already. It's not like he's smoking it now at the beginning of the year. He's smoked through all kinds of cigars. And this is one of the best. Superbly balanced flavor bomb of epic proportions. Like, why didn't you give it a 96, Brooks? Why? Tell us. I would love to know. I would love to know what's missing from this cigar, according to what you're saying. So, yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think? Tell me what you think in the comments. Brian says retail cost. Oh, retail cost is a $9.95 per stick. 10 in the bundle, so $99.50. So this one from Raul costs $10.95. So a little bit, because here in Maryland we've got the OTP, so it's a little bit more. So Brian says complexity. And then Inting says it might be $92.95. Yeah, I mean, really, I think it could be, that kind of descriptions could be more. Like I would have expected more. Like other descriptions we've seen on the show from other reviewers, it's kind of like they're stretching. Like, oh, the cigar was very good. The cigar was good. The draw was good. But this guy's like, this is superb. Superb. God, I don't know. George says, once again, the rating system is called into question. Well, I mean, I hear what I totally hear what you're saying, but I also think that maybe it's okay to have, I think it's okay to have numbering systems. And this is, but I think that we need to have more of an industry-wide understanding for where the numbers fall. And that's why that's why I'm always talking on when we talk about ratings about what they're writing. What are they saying? And does what they say correlate to the score they're giving? Like for example, and I get this because I do this at coffee competitions with my judges, right? So I'll have a panel of judges, and they're writing their notes and they're giving scoring, and it's like, you gave the score of excellent, but nothing you've written supports excellent, right? Or you gave a score of very good, but everything you've written is excellent. So we want to move around to to make it feel, to just make the score reflect the experience. That's really what we're talking about, you know? Like, it's hard for me to see someone say, oh, it was very good, but you gave it a 94. Right? We're here, Brooks, and I'm not beating down on Brooks. Like, 92 is a very good score. I mean, that's great. It's A, right? But it sounds like this could be A plus, right? What do you think? Brian says maybe his crack too. It could be. I mean, so far it's nice. It's nice. I'm enjoying it. Well, it could be, Tony. It could be. But what he's saying, what he's writing about it, isn't meh. I mean, meh should be lower. But you know, the interesting thing, let's fast forward into this. And because I thought this turned out to be quite an interesting exploration for me, right? So I'm looking at the different cigars, or the different reviews, right? Let me find the reviews here. I made a bunch of notes. Okay, so we'll move on to Casa Fumando, right? So Casa Fumando, I've never heard of these guys before, but let me get this up here. Okay, so this is Casa Fumando. You know, basically, when I'm doing these, when I'm making the notes before the show, I'm basically just, you know, kind of doing a Google search and looking at what are the new reviews for the cigar in question. And so, you know, this guy, so this guy Tony Casas, he did this also in November of 2020. So he's talking about first third, great aroma, sweet cedar, barnyard, earthy, spice, black cherry. Cold draw has great cedar, earthiness, and pecan. The first third, he's talking about bold cedar, nutmeg, pecans, brown sugar, musk, earthiness, oatmeal cookies. He says on the first third, it's incredible off the bat, right? Incredible off the bat. That's some big words right there. The second third, we're moving on, right? Musk, cedar, pecan, nutmeg, cinnamon, earth. Then awesome pine note in the thirds, right? Thirds of the finish. Strong musk, cedar, pecan. One thing about that I've been seeing is like a lot of the description between Brooks and Tony Casas is that the flavors are very static through the thirds. They're not really changing too often. But like here, for example, for his overview, he says, big departure from Illusione, very complex flavor, extremely impressive, burn like a dream, price would pay time and time again. It's a perfect mixture. Of course, you know, their style is that they don't actually give a score. But obviously this guy loves it. So he's probably 95 or something like that. If he was to give it a score, I would say that this guy, Tony, is very much in tune with Brooks. Like a lot of what they're saying is very similar. For example, like in the Illusione, I mean in the like for example with Brooks, he talks about creamy almonds, cedar. I mean, maybe there's some creaminess. Okay, there's a little bit of creaminess. Creamy almonds, cedar, leather tack. I don't know what leather tack is. Maybe he means like saddle leather. Cocoa nibs, espresso beans, hay, sourdough bread. Sourdough bread, I don't know if I get that. But as we continue on for his review, the almonds remain. Fig Newton stays the same. Creamy cedar, espresso beans, tea leaves. They're very consistent in the flavors that are happening throughout the cigar. And so Brian says, doesn't sound like the complexity you get from a 93. Well, you know, maybe you're right. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's part of it. But I would just think that, well, we'll see. We'll see. But if a cigar wasn't that complex, and that was a negative thing, if that was, here's burning kind of strange, look at that. Look at that weird burn. And I've been talking a lot this time. Consistent is great, but epic changes. Epic change would be much better. Oh, so we've got two guys, Brooks and this guy Tony, that love the cigar, right? They love it. They love it. It's lots of great superlatives. Now, let's go and have a look at our guys from Developing Palates, right? So this is Developing Palates. And so we've got, the way the Developing Palates does it, they have 4 different reviewers, right? So we've got Aaron Loomis, Seth Geis, John McTavish, and Jun Liu. And then Tony says, unless you're into S&M, most aren't you? Well, that's your loss, my friend. Anyway, so we've got these. Let me get rid of that there. That'd be good. And we're not going to go. I'm not going to go through each of their things, but there's 4 of them that give their results. And let's look down here at their chart. And I think this is quite interesting. So we see here good. So pre-light, good, average, good, very good. First third, average, subpar, good, average. Second third, average, 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 average. Final third, subpar, subpar, average. The burn, bad, average, average, average. Draw, very good, average, amazing, and amazing. Then overall, subpar. Subpar. Average and average. Man, so let's go down a little bit more for these guys. So they give their points. Aaron Loomis, 4.28. Seth Geis, 3.93. McTavish, 5.45. And Jun Liu, also 5.45. Man, that is brutal. Brutal. Right? And are these even the same cigars now? Right? I don't know. We have 2 reviewers that just love it. 4 reviewers that just kind of hate it. Like, and the Developing Palates has a little bit different way of scoring. Their scoring system actually is on a 10-point scale. So this is 3.93 points out of 10. I mean, that's just... But let's go back here again. So, but let's say they talked about average, right? This guy here. Let's say this guy, John McTavish, right? Good, good, average, subpar, average, amazing, average. His score, 5.4. That's, halfway through 10. That's average. That makes sense. Here, very good, average, 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 amazing, average. 5.4. Yeah, that kind of makes sense too. Now, Seth Geis, average, subpar, average, subpar, average, average, overall, subpar. 3.93. See these, and then let's do Aaron. Aaron, good, average, average, subpar. Bad, very good, subpar. 4.28. Actually, I would have thought that maybe Aaron would have a lower score than Seth. But here's a situation where we've got 4 reviewers, and their scoring reflects what they're saying, right? So they're saying here, I mean, let's even look at some of these. Let's see what they say overall. So Seth Geis, worst overall. The idea of releasing cigars widely exclusively available to members, fan support 100%. I think PCA should have blah, 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 blah. I am really disappointed in Illusione for releasing a cigar of this caliber. They are better than this. With that, PCA should do... he's not really saying anything there. Burn was off. Demise in flavor. I should get rid of that banner. Yeah, 25% time, bad burn. I agree with you on that. And George saying, someone is lying. I mean, it kind of, it makes you wonder, like, is it, Are people lying, or are people just getting, or is there such a variance? Now, I mean, I have not found Aganorsa cigars to be, that wide and swing. So, and then of course, it could also be the fact that everyone has different palates, right? So everyone's going to enjoy things to a different extent. And like these, let's say the four guys from Developing Palates, let's presume they're friends, so they hang out together, do things together. So being friends, they're going to have they'll have similar tastes. Like if we think about our group of friends that we hang out with, a lot of our friends tend to like the same cigars, right? Like you'll have your outlier, the guy that likes Gurkha, right? Like if you had a group of guys that like Padron 64s and, Roma Craft and Tatuai and all these boutique brands, and, you'll have one of the guys that's the outlier that likes Gurkha and loves Gurkha. But for the most part, I think the guys stay together, right? And so maybe these guys are, I mean, I don't know. That's just a thought. That's just something to consider as we think about how they write here. Feel the burn, yes. Smoking the name, oh, it could be. It could be. I mean, like, there's got to be a lot of that. Like, for example, let's take Padron, right? Padron, well-known, well-regarded, well-respected, right? Makes great cigars. Like, their 1000 series, great smokes. The 64s, fantastic. Very consistent, always consistent. The Damaso, the Connecticut wrap, came out, and everyone's like, oh, this is amazing, this is amazing. I had it, it was the worst Padron I've ever had. Like, I won't even, it was so bad for $17, and I had it twice, that I won't even have it again. Like, I wouldn't even consider buying it, because it was just not to my taste. Now, everything else, I dig. But, Now, we can't hate on our friends. Ooh, that's a good one. So, yeah, I don't know. So what do you guys think? I mean, what are you guys smoking else tonight? Inting, how's everything going to New Jersey? But so far, I did tap it out. I mean, let me get rid of this screen here, sorry. So, it's smoking nicely. Am I getting the flavors that Brooks and Tony are getting? Not really. There's some spiciness, maybe some cedar, maybe some of the creaminess. He talks about espresso beans. I don't get that. I'm not getting that. Yeah, the weather's beautiful up there. Beautiful here, so I imagine it's just as beautiful up there. So hopefully hopefully you're outside enjoying it. What's up, Rusty? Welcome. How you doing? All right, so I've got a little bit of a burn problem, right? So here we are. You can kind of see it, like right here on this side. That part that's sticking out is kind of out. So I'm going to have to hit that with some flame. Okay, good. Oh, nice. You had that, I guess you had that outside, huh, Rusty? The Traviata Maduro. And Tony says, Padron wasn't happy with Damaso either. Well, why did they release it? That's the thing. You weren't happy with it. Why'd you release it? Maybe they were happy with it, but then nobody bought it. But at this point, it's kind of like, am I going to spend $17 for a cigar that I've already had 2 bad experiences with to try it for a third time? when I could easily spend the same amount of money buying something that I know is going to be killer, like the 64, or even better yet, like a 3000 Maduro, right? That would be great. Yeah, Rusty, totally 70s down here. I've been walking around in shorts and a t-shirt all day long. Yeah, to me that's the thing. It's like they do make great cigars. Let's not make it wrong. Padron, like actually the best Padron I've ever had was not the fancy ones, not the Hammer, not the 26, not that $100 like anniversary special. The very best Padron that I've ever had was a 3000 Maduro. So when you go down to Nicaragua at the Sandino airport, when you're leaving the country, after you've gone through security, you're up at the gates, there's all this duty-free shopping. And Padron has this little tiny kiosk. Well, they did back then. I haven't been there in a couple years, so I'm not sure. They might have got a bigger. But there's a kiosk there. And I was heading off from Nicaragua, was heading next to El Salvador. And I had smoked through all my cigars, and I was like, man, I need to go and get me some cigars. So I went over to the Padron booth, and I bought like a 3-pack or 5-pack, I forgot, maybe it's a 5-pack, of Padron 3000 Maduros. Now, I don't know what it was about this particular one, but these were the most perfect 3000s, maybe one of the most perfect cigars that I've ever had, meaning that the way that when I finally got to El Salvador and opened this 5-pack, the way that the cigars felt, the silkiness of the wrapper, the smoothness of the smoke, the hydration of the tobacco was just perfect. Like, I've never had it better, before or since. Like, they had the perfect conditions for it. And I guess that makes sense because it's in the country of origin, so, you know. Inting, I agree 100%. The Damaso is definitely, like Brian says, both of you agree, Damaso is a disappointment. Tony does recommend the Sin Compromiso Brulee for Osaka. That's good. The Brulee is interesting. Like, we've had it on the show, and I've smoked it separately on my own. And, you know, there's a lot of talk about why is it sweet? I don't buy that it's natural. I don't buy that at all. Like, I have taken the cigar, the Brulee, and I've smoked it, right? And I've licked it on the cap area, tasted it, and then I've licked the body of the wrapper. There's no sweetness there. It is not my position is that it is artificially sweetened. The Family 46, yeah, very good, very good, very good. Very good. But anyway, so, you know, we're dealing with Aganorsa. So this is made by Aganorsa. I should go over more of the details in the cigar. So we've got an Inting thinks that this Sin Compromiso is a gem. I mean, I'll have to get one of those for the show. Sweet, exactly. But anyway, going back to this cigar, of course, this is made in Nicaragua by Tabacos Valle de Jalapa, which is Aganorsa's factory in Esteli, and it's using Ecuadorian Habano Claro wrapper with a Nicaraguan binder and Nicaraguan Criollo 98 and Corojo 99 fillers. So they were made 1,500 bundles, so 15,000 cigars. Finally came out in September 2020. It's a nice cigar so far. I mean, I like box press cigars, so the draw is nice. It's not as loose of a draw as the Revenge. Like, Revenges are like very loose compared to this. This is tighter. I don't normally lick my cigars. Well, maybe I do. But in this case, I just wanted to, like, know, is this all just hype? Like, you know, it's when do you have tobacco that sweet? You just don't. Just don't. Brian also loves it in compromiso. So maybe there's a bread-like character to it right now. Now that we're kind of in the second third, I don't know if I would describe it like Brooks does as sourdough, but there is a bread-like component. Oh, here's interesting something. I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but there. Look at the shape, right? It's slowly trumpeting, right? Thin and then trumpeting slightly. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But it's still smoking nicely. So something else I thought I would share with you guys is I was in, like I said, I was down in Esteli a few years back, and I was able to visit. You know, we hung out we got to visit with Eduardo and Paul Palmer, and they took us to their factory. And so here's some photos that I took at the factory. So this is the main rolling floor at Aganorsa. It's actually quite a small factory. Like when you go to visit places like Tony's, I know has been to Perdomo, and I imagine Perdomo's like this, but if you go to places like Perdomo or to Plasencia, to my father, you're talking about like big rolling from Drew Estate, ridiculously large, right? Aganorsa is really kind of small, bigger than, let's say, Nicasueño, but still on the small side. So this is kind of later in the day. This is late in the day after the workers have finished for the day. This one woman that's left, I guess they have a quota to make for the day, so everybody else is finished, and so she's just kind of finishing up her day. And this is a typical station there. So I'm sure all of you guys have seen this kind of thing. I mean, this is something that you must see everywhere, and basically, this is where the rolling station happens. You've got the bundles of like 50 in the upper right corner. There's the gum additives in that white little container to the left. What else can we see? Some cigars being rolled, and so this is a rolling station. So this is after they press the cigars, and they're just rolling the wrapper on top of it. So there's actually if this silver thing. So if you see the silver board, the wood board above it. And then just beyond that, there's this kind of like silvery-looking contraption. That's actually the cutter, so that will cut the cigar. After you've rolled the wrapper on top of the cigar, you'll then use that cutter to cut it down to size, to the proper length. So this is the tasting room at Aganorsa. That's Dion from Illusione. He's tasting different blends that were being considered for future cigars. So we got to sit down with Dion and Paul Palmer and Arsenio Ramos to, just have an insight into their blending process, their tasting. So we tasted a whole bunch of different leaves, different cigars that they're working on. The guy with the blue hat is Arsenio Ramos, and he was the master roller. He passed away sadly in 2018, but really great guy. Every time I would see him after that, he would always like sit down and talk to me. He didn't really speak any English, so I would speak in broken Spanish, and he would just kind of tell me how his day was going. But what's happening here is that we're on the show floor, or we're on the rolling floor, because as Dion was tasting some cigars, some of the samples, he noticed that there was something off in the blend, and so they went down to the floor to see what was happening and to try to figure out where the error was happening in the process. I thought that was really fascinating to see them work like that. And then the guy in the back there, that's my buddy Marvin, he's the guy that actually put together our trip. He runs he runs cigars for a gourmet shop in Hawaii, in Honolulu, called Arfield Tobacco, or Arfield Wines. And then these are some of the workers, some of the rollers so this guy in the blue jacket, the denim, he's one of the rollers. And then this guy here, I think he's the shop foreman. Again, they're looking at what is happening with the production and where things are a little bit off. And then here is the packaging room. You may notice the bundles of the JFR, the just for retailers, brick and mortar exclusive cigars, and so they're just packaging them up. You know, that little stand is what they put some of the cigars to do shading, control, and matching. And this is Arsenio Ramos. He's there blending. He's doing live blend, smoking his own cigar, and then live blending, and then tasting the different leaves together. Now, this is interesting. Like in this room, it's a sizable. It's not sizable, but it's a decent sized room. So there's a big conference table in the tasting room, and you've got all kinds of cigars and tobacco just scattered all over the place. And there were like maybe 6 of us smoking at the time. And they have these 2 little fans in the corner of the room. So Arsenio in this picture is actually at the head of the conference table. And I'm sitting on the long side, right, to his right. The exhaust ports are and you can see the corner of the room above the door. The exhaust ports are on the opposite wall just behind me, right? There's 2 little fans. And we were 6 of us smoking. And however they got this to work, I haven't really been sure, but the smoke never lingered. It just was clear the whole time. Really amazing how they were able to do that. Like I know a bunch of us, like Brian and I, will sit around talking about, you know, different ways and problems of like how do you clear the room of smoke. These are the guys that got it down. And actually, this is where I really learned to. This is where I first learned about the MTX scissor cutter from Sidecar. They were using it here. We were using it while we were smoking. I was like, this is the best cutter I've ever used. And so we got to that. This is Dion, of course, and he's going through the different leaves. The kid next to him, the guy with the black hair with the arm, that's actually Charlie Minato from Half Wheel. Charlie came down and was hanging out with us for the day. Actually, after this, we went to Paul's house because Eduardo was preparing like a whole pig dinner for us. So they roasted this whole pig. So we had this crazy feast afterwards. It was really quite nice. And then here's a little cigar of tasting. So they'll roll these to taste the different tobaccos. So it's not really clear in the picture. It's kind of in the background. But if you can see behind my hand, beyond my hand, there's that ashtray, and the ashtray is filled with all these sticks. So basically, they were taking different tobaccos, rolling them like this. We would smoke them, or you would just taste them, and then you taste them, and okay, that worked, if that didn't work, then they'll roll up another bunch of, you know, different combination of tobacco, smoke a little bit of it, and they would put it down. And so, you know, I'm a bit of a cheap cigar guy, right? So when they gave me this little stick, I smoked the whole thing. Because, you know. And, yeah, that was good. Oh, so I'll show you this since it's here. This is Skip. After the next day, we were at Nica Sueño. So this is actually, and this is old. Like, Nica Sueño has changed since this time, but this is their tobacco storage. So when you hear people talk about the different bales of tobacco, this is what they look like. So they're typically wrapped in jute bags, or they could be boxed. And what they're doing is they'll actually press it down, right? They'll layer the tobacco and then press it down. And this is after the pre-industry fermentation. So the leaves at this point, even though they're like 100-pound bales that have been compressed, they are no longer, they are past the fermentation point. So they won't restart fermentation. Like you would have to I think add water to them to re-kick fermentation. So the water content is low enough that there isn't, it doesn't do fermentation again. So here you are. Here's just some Criollo 98s, 2012 crop. Wrappers for Romacraft. And you guys might have seen the big Cro-Magnon femurs, the 130 ring gauge cigars. Well, this is the molds for them, so they make them 2 at a time. And they're completely smokable. Evidently, the people that I've seen smoking them on the internet, they take 3 hours to smoke. I always wanted to get one. They were about $50. I don't know what you can get it for. And this is the interior of Nika Sueño's rolling room. Actually, it looks, maybe it's about the same size as Aganorsa. Maybe they're the same size. But here's some longer, I think they were sort of 38s. One of the things that we were there that we were challenging Esteban Disla on doing was, could he freehand roll 38 ring gauge cigars? And he kind of just took some paper, some newspaper, and rolled it up that way. That was interesting. So these are the sorting bins. So this is where, at the time, Skip and them were keeping the different tobaccos they had in inventory. They would keep them in this bin just so that they could easily access them. And some of the bundles before they go into escaparate. And the escaparate is basically the room. It's basically like their humidor, right? They've got a humidor room, typically skittered line, and they just have all of the 50 count bundles just stacked. So that was kind of, I thought I'd share, since we're smoking a cigar, Illusione, made by Aganorsa. I thought I'd share a little bit of the factory with you guys. But the cigar smoking, it's still a little bit, it's still burning slightly uneven. It's a pleasant, fun, it's a pleasant and enjoyable cigar. I don't get so far my experience with the cigar is not the superb experience that Brooks and Tony were talking about, but it certainly isn't as bad as Seth Geisa and the guys at Developing Palates. This is definitely, I would say it's 80s, very good. But let's see what it tastes like with some alcohol. And I'm a rum guy, so we're just gonna do rum. We're gonna do Diplomatico, and the Diplomatico is a where's it from? Oh, I can't read. Venezolano. It's Venezuelan rum. Well rated. All right. There we are. Nice. If you haven't had it, the Diplomatico is a real nice, a lot of caramel, a lot of vanilla notes to it. A little bit on the sweeter side for rums, but not too sweet. All right, now we're going to see how it goes. Nice. So I guess the big news this week is that, or this coming weekend, is that this weekend will mark the 1-year anniversary of the pandemic shutdown here in the United States, and I guess around the world. It's gone by pretty fast. I think we're back to a year already. There were days that it seemed like it would never come. And I don't know how it is in your world, but here, like I said, because I work at the shop on a daily basis, I'm always traveling to the shop. So I've been driving the entire time, and now it's starting to get more traffic. People are starting to get out more. The governor of Maryland just decided to release a lot of the restrictions on outdoor seating and indoor seating at restaurants, so people are getting a little bit more positive. However, I have heard that some people are saying that there's supposed to be one more spike before everyone fully gets vaccinated. And so, what is it? Biden says that everyone's going to be vaccinated by May? June? Something like that? Okay, so here it's starting to take a turn. It's starting to get a little bit hot. It's starting to lose the nice flavor that it was having. It's starting to turn to be, and I don't know, maybe I just changed my palate because I drank this rum. Where it was pleasant the entire time, now it's just starting to be not so pleasant. No Awesomeness was the South Park Fest. I haven't seen that yet. I need to watch that. I totally didn't watch the last one a year ago. The one that I only saw like a clip about the kid who was, or about one of the, was it Cartman that put his face on the screen. When my little nephew Ollie, right, my little nephew's 9 years old, and he's always getting in trouble because he's online doing class, and he's always getting in trouble now because he's like, after evidently what they tell me is that his teacher sees him doing this, and she knows that he's watching something else, usually video games. I heard they were making fun of QAnon. I need to watch that. Speaking of watching, I'm actually kind of behind, and like normally I watch shows, but I've been kind of hanging out more this past week, so I really haven't caught up in many of the shows that I watch. I need to work on that. And so Rusty's asking, did you shut down Spro in the pandemic? No, we did not close ever. There was 2 days when we were closed back in January, where I had to wait for my COVID testing to come back. So we were closed for 2 days. But however, since the pandemic started, we've been open every day except for Christmas. I think we even opened Thanksgiving as well. No, we've been closed 4 days for the last. We have now been open for 361 days because we closed 4 days, 2 days for the COVID testing, and Christmas and New Year's. When the pandemic first started, towards the end of February, I was already thinking that we were going to have a shutdown. So I sent a message out. I think maybe it was February 28th. Whatever it was, right around the time when that pay period's payroll came out, I sent a message to all of my staff that said, I think that we're going to have a shutdown, so we have to prepare for that. And I started to give them more implementation of, more sanitation. Make sure you're washing your hands regularly, not touching your face, doing all that. So that was like maybe mid to late February. By the end of February, I started telling them you need to not spend your money. So the money that you're getting now in these paychecks, you need to not spend it. Only spend what you really absolutely have to buy, like your rent, your bills. Don't do any craziness, because I told them I didn't know what was going to happen if Penn was shut down. I thought shutdown was coming, and I didn't know what was going to happen. So if shutdown came, they were just going to be done. We were just going to be done at that point. And so I think some of them took the heed. It came, mid-March, right? So about a year ago. I was hoping that we'd be able to last one more pay period. So I was hoping that shutdown would at least be put off until the end of March. So it came 2 weeks earlier than I would have liked. But for us, what happened is we changed everything overnight. Basically, I had to lay off everybody right off the bat because we just wouldn't be able. I just didn't know how much volume we were going to have, and volume fell off a cliff. Like overnight, volume was done, and so I worked the shop myself for the first like 3-4 for at least a month every day, and I changed the hours of the operation. So we used to be open from like 8 to 5. And when the shutdown order started came out, I was like, well, if I have to work, then I need to, I need to work. I need to set hours that I can do 7 days a week, and that was 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And so we've been at 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. for a year now. So Tony says they made fun of everyone in the South Park special, and he's also out to go watch Resident Alien. All right, have a good time. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Resident Alien. Resident Alien is this. I might have mentioned it in previous shows, but it's something I've been watching as well. It's a show with Alan Tudyk, and Alan is he played Wash in the Firefly series, if you happen to have seen that. But Alan's character is an alien that comes from another planet, and his mission here was to essentially wipe out the planet. But he gets into a spacecraft crash, and he's stranded on the planet, and he's hiding out in this place called Patience, Colorado, I think it's called. It's this like mountain town about 3 hours outside of Denver, and he just follows the adventure. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's enjoyable. If you got nothing to do on a Wednesday night, it's good to watch. Oh, I don't know. And then WandaVision just finished last week. I don't know if you guys watched that, but that was... So WandaVision started off weird. Like, it's weird. And it didn't get any different. It stayed weird the entire run. Like, it ended weird. Like, some people are really excited about it. I don't know. It was weird. But evidently, from what I was reading, the whole pandemic has kind of, like, thrown off the Marvel. So there was evidently 2 more movies that were supposed to have come out in the past year. And then the Captain America, what is it? Captain America and whatever. There's supposed to be another TV series of Captain America, the new Captain America. And the Winter Soldier was supposed to come out before WandaVision. But now, because of pandemic, WandaVision, and then now Captain America and Winter Soldier is supposed to come out starting next week, I think, or the week after, the 19th, I believe. What I'm really waiting for movie-wise is James Bond. Like, I'm a big James Bond fan, so I want to see James Bond. I want to see Daniel Craig's final outing as James Bond before they give the 007 title to the black girl. And then the other one I want to see is that new Top Gun. That looks hella crazy. You know, Tom Cruise is an interesting character. Like, for a while, I was always kind of, like, skeptical of Cruise. Just because he's kind of a strange cat. Like, when he was jumping on Ellen's couch, like, that was kind of weird. The whole Scientology thing, that's weird. But, you know, I watch all of it. I watch a lot of his, or all of his movies, and they're always really good. Like, his whole Mission Impossible, like, he's really good. Like, he really does like the last Mission Impossible, like he really did a halo jump out of the aircraft. That's craziness. 20,000 feet he jumps out, and he did it like 13, 14 times because they had to get so many shots. And Brian agrees with 007, absolutely. Like, I think Daniel Craig is a pretty badass Bond. Like, I think he's probably the best Bond since Connery, I think. And I grew up loving Roger Moore. Like my father, when I was younger, much younger, used to argue about that. You know, he was like, "Oh, Connery's better." I was like, "No way, Roger Moore's better." But I never saw the Connery series, so I didn't know. I only saw, you know, Live and Let Die on Ford, and And then Brian says, I like Tom, but Tom, yeah, you know what? I think you should reconsider that. And here's why, right? So, you know, what I think is interesting about this is that, so when they made the first Top Gun in the 80s, and I only learned this recently, evidently, they never shot any of the actors. So Tom Cruise, Goose, Iceman, Val Kilmer, they shot them in the planes, right? But they never shot them actually flying. Like, they were never actually in the planes when they were flying. I mean, which makes sense. If you have a Panavision, like, gold camera, like a 35 millimeter camera, I mean, those are massive. Like, the 1,000-foot core is like, the magazine is like that big. And then the body, the smallest of the Panavision, well, in the 80s, it was bigger because I was working in the industry in the 90s, and we had the gold, and then the platinum, and then the millennium, and they were all, you know, you could get it down to about that big, right? The body, just the body. So you got the body, the magazine, and then whatever lens you're putting on, and then. But now they have these digital cameras that are like IMAX that are like that, with the lens, and that's it. And so they would use tandem FA-18s, right? And from what I saw, they would put six. They could, on the cluster of the cockpit, they could put 6 cameras. So when you watch Top Gun, they're actually in the plane. Of course, they're not flying the plane because that would be crazy. But you really see the reaction, and I think that's pretty damn cool. I would love to try that. Like, the closest thing I ever had is when I was in college in Hawaii. One of the girls in one of my classes, Carrie, she worked at the Marine Corps Air Station, and she worked as, like, you know, one of her side jobs was to kind of run the FA-18 simulator, the fighter simulator. So one night she was like, "Hey, we're going to do a simulator party. Would you like?" She invited me. So I went down to the base, and we went to the simulator room. And man, it's not like the simulators that are on a gimbal. It was a stationary simulator with wireframe generation. So it was this huge screen, and it's all wireframe. So it looks like Tempest, right? But it was all wireframe of, like, Oahu and Honolulu. Like, you could have wireframe buildings, and you would fly. And this is the whole deal. Like, you sat in the cockpit of an FA-18 with, like, all the thrust controllers and digital readouts and all the targeting systems. Of course, they turn the targeting systems off because that's classified. But I got to fly this simulator. It was pretty badass. You know, my chubby ass fit in it. And I was, like, so surprised. But it was comfortable. For me, it was comfortable. And it turns out that fighter pilots, they don't like 6-foot fighter pilots. So Val Kilmer, too tall. Tom Cruise at 5'7", he's just the right height. Me at 5'7", 5'8", I'm just the right height too. So, you know, Daniel is the best. I agree. Yeah, watch it. Watch it in protest. It's all right. So the cigar's rolling along. It's getting a lot of smoky, so I'm getting a little bit of chokiness in it. But it's kind of uneven. I'm gonna burn that piece off because it is affecting the way the flavor is. I'm gonna try to tap out some of it. And then, like, for example, that other in Mission Impossible, Cruise is, like, in this helicopter battle, right? Well, in order for them to do that, he actually learned how to fly a helicopter and does these crazy stunts. And I mean, the guy is nuts, right? He's nuts. He's Scientology nuts. But God, he's really committed. The guy is super committed. And I must say, I do enjoy his, like, I was watching, you know, over the pandemic, I was rewatching, like, Edge of Tomorrow, the Mission Impossible series, Oblivion, you know, some of his, and he's always enjoyable. I gotta say, he's always an enjoyable movie to watch. Yeah, second. It might need a third. Like, where I noted it wasn't the enjoyability of the cigar. Like where I noted where it changed, about there, right? It definitely has changed, and not necessarily for the better. So where I was in the 80s, a little while ago, I think I'm maybe high 70s, low 80s. Ooh, so what else is happening in the world? Oh, I didn't know that. Or like that one Mission Impossible where he's rock climbing. Like, I mean, he was wearing wires. Like, that would be ridiculous not to wear wires. But he's really out there climbing. Like, I couldn't climb like that. No way. Or that Mission Impossible where he's climbing the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. He was really doing that. Wired, but still. I mean, he has to be wired. Like, you can't have your main character actor millions of dollars worth, you know, hanging, you know, jumping from window to window on the highest building in the world and just fall to his death. Like, that would be crushing to production. Crushing to production. Oh, speaking of Top Gun, that's another story I got for you. So, Top Gun was a movie that was produced by Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson, right? They did all those big, like, action movies, especially in the 80s and 90s, even still today. But that movie was directed by a guy named Tony Scott. I worked with Tony on a movie called Enemy of the State in 1997, I think it was, or 98, somewhere right around there. And of all the directors that I worked with, Tony Scott was the very best director I've worked with. Like, great director, knows what he wants, very talented, and just great to work with a lot of fun on his set. Like, and he was also a big cigar smoker. Like, he smoked Monte Cristo No. 2 Havanas all day long. So whenever we started to whenever we finished, he was smoking 12 hours, 16 hours a day. He's smoking these cigars. So he's easily smoking 8 to 10 cigars a day. Only Monte No. 2s. And the interesting thing, the prop master on the show, who's worked with him a lot, based in LA, he was telling me, like, and it was a smoking set, so everybody was smoking cigars. Like, I was smoking cigars, right? And I'm one of the junior guys at the time, so it was great. But they were telling me that, like, Tony, he smoked so much cigars that he spent like $200,000 a year on cigars. And I think he would only get them from Fox in London. Because, he's British. But, for example, he would do crazy things. Like, the guys were telling me when they were shooting Top Gun back in the 80s, they're like on the U.S. Nimitz or the Enterprise, whatever aircraft carrier they're shooting on, right? They're there, and they did their shots, and Tony wants to do one more take. And the Navy was like, well, if you want to do one more take and we got to turn the boat around, we're going to charge production $150,000. $150,000 in the 1980s. Like, was this 85? So Bruckheimer was like, hell no, we're not going to. We already got the shot. We're not going to do another one. Hell no, we're not doing that. So Tony got pissed off. He was like, I want to do another shot. So what they told me is that he whips out his checkbook, writes a check for $150,000, and hands it to them. Here, turn the boat around. We're doing another take. Craziness, just crazy. And like, he was the kind of guy that would like when they also told me when they shot Crimson Tide, They were in Hawaii, right? And so Crimson Tide, if you're not familiar, is that submarine movie with Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington, where they have a mutiny on board the USS Alabama, the Boomer class nuclear submarine. And because it was about that, the Navy wasn't helping them. Like Top Gun, it's very positive for the Navy, so the Navy was all about supporting them and letting them shoot on their boats and everything. Which is also why at the very beginning and end of Crimson Tide, they're on that French aircraft helicopter carrier, right? They had that. They were only able to use that because it was the French Navy, right? The U.S. Navy wasn't helping them. But they wanted to get a shot of a boomer submerging. So at the very beginning of the movie, if you remember, they leave port, and they had that scene with Gene and Denzel, and they're sitting on the bridge of the Alabama, and Gene's smoking the Monte Cristo number 2 and gives one to Denzel's character, and lets him smoke it, and he's like, what do you think of that cigar? And he's like, well, it's good. He's like, well, don't get too used to it. They're more expensive than drugs, which I think is a great line and totally accurate. But after that, they submerge the boat, right? And so that's submerging. So you see them, the boomer carrier, the boomer submarine submerge. They got that shot because what they did is they flew out to Pearl Harbor in Honolulu, and they sat in their boats and they waited. They sat in helicopters and they waited. And when a boomer finally was leaving Pearl, they took off after it and shot it, and they just started shooting. They just started rolling cameras and just chased this submarine as it left Pearl. So crazy stuff like that. Like another time we were. So evidently they were also telling me that on Days of Thunder. They were shooting Days of Thunder, and normally a motion picture like that caliber, like these are like big Hollywood blockbuster movies, right? They're spending insane amounts of money. We got insane amounts of crew. Like when Enemy State, we would roll into like a neighborhood, and we've got 50 like tractor trailers of trucks and production gear and everything. We've got 150 people on the crew, plus the cast. I mean, it's costing the company $150,000 a day just to operate, right? So, Enemy was the most expensive movie ever budgeted when it was made. So it was the biggest budget film ever made at the time. And so they said on Days of Thunder. Okay, so typically when you go to work on a movie set, like they have a call time, and that's what time everybody's supposed to be. That's what time everyone starts. So let's say it starts. The call time is 8:00. So you have to be there and be ready to go at 8 p.m. 8:00 in the morning. So if call is at 8, everyone's there by 8:00. You've already had breakfast. You've already done your thing. You're at your station, and you're ready to go. And your first hour really is just getting everything ready. You're pulling all the gear out of the trucks. You're setting up the shot. And because it's costing so much to make this production, any movie, and you're so caught up with time, you really have to make every moment count. So everything's scripted, everything's laid out, everything's storyboarded, and you're ready to go. They said on Days of Thunder, one day on Days of Thunder, they had their call. An hour later, they're ready to go. Everyone's waiting. Then 6 hours later, you have lunch, and lunch is usually about an hour. They had lunch. They came back from lunch. They waited. Tony in production is trying to figure out what they're going to do. Finally, they call wrap 6 hours later. Done. Shot not one foot of film the entire day. Crazy. In the film world, that's craziness. And so on Enemy, we had a day very similar to that. Let's say we called it 8:00. So we came in 8:00. We set up by 9. We're ready to go at 9. And we wait. 5 hours later, we still haven't shot. Lunchtime. We have our lunch. So 1 o'clock we go to lunch. 2 o'clock we're back from lunch. 6 o'clock we're still waiting. 7 o'clock we're still waiting. There's been nothing shot. Finally at 7 o'clock we roll. We finally did I think we shot a page, so maybe like a minute's worth of film, of screen time. And that was it. Then we wrapped and went home. And so so Tony was this kind of crazy director in that respect, but it was always a lot of fun. I have to say, well, he was a director where if they had called and he was like, "Hey man, we want you to come and shoot with us," I'd be like, "Okay, I'm on the way. I'm on the way. I don't care whatever we're working on." It was really sad when he committed suicide. He jumped off the bridge in San Gabriel, California. Very sad. Anyway, so what else happening in the world? Oh, by the way, there's evidently Italy is selling houses for €1. So you can go to Italy, to these towns these old towns where people have been leaving. You know, they're people are getting old. The young people are moving off to the bigger cities to find better opportunity, and now these houses are just abandoned, and so they're just falling and decrepit, and the cities are like in desperate need of everything, you know. So they started this program where they're selling houses in Italy for $1. And I just came across this new thing where I'm going to show you this because I think it's kind of interesting. Here we go. So here we are. We have Lorenzana in southern Italy's Basilicata region has put abandoned homes on the market for €1. Now, here's the thing. So, typically, these towns will. What makes what is it called? What makes Lorenzana different is that, you know, you'll go in, you'll pay your euro for the house, and then you have to put a deposit of like €2,000 or €3,000, and then you have time to build the house, and then when you finish building the house, they'll give you your deposit back. But Lorenzana is doing a different tack where you just put down the euro for the house, and then you have to build. There's no more deposit, so it's actually quite economical to build this house. And so let's look at some of these houses. Right here's the Lorenzana. This is the town, a small town. I think there's only 10 houses left at the moment in the center of the city, and there's a bunch more around here. So you don't have to pay a deposit guarantee. You do have to start building or renovating the house within 3 months, and then you must finish the renovation within 3 years. So those are really the big stipulations. Like here, so you'll probably spend, they say, what, $20,000 on renovations? I mean, that seems, you know, that's what, 35,000 US? That's not bad. That seems relatively reasonable. Of course, like, you have to be, you know, well off enough that you can afford to maintain a home on the other side of the planet or in a different country than where you live and make money. Like, you're not, I don't think, I mean, I guess you could. I guess if you have that kind of job that you can work remotely, you could get one of these houses, and if they have internet, you'd be fine. But let's see. I thought we'd see let's see what another house is here. So there's castle ruins. I guess you can buy the castle. Huh. That'd be crazy. Anyway, so let's look where Lorenzana. So this is the town of Lorenzana. Let's get this a little bit bigger. So Lorenzana's there. Where? Southern Italy. Where are we? Oh, there's Lorenzana there. Let me highlight this. There we go. Okay, so we've got our... Oh, it's towards the bottom of the boot. Potenza, Salerno, so it's south of Naples. South of Avellino. I mean, it's pretty far away. Like, I've never been to this part. Like, I've only been to, I've been Florence and Bologna. Yeah, there's Rome. So it's south of Rome, south of Naples. Yeah, it's pretty remote, but might not be a bad place to have a house. especially if you want to give. So this cigar's going out now. Look at this. Look at this craziness. Oops. It's out. It's out. A little bit disappointing. So I'm going to knock everything out. See if we can start it up again. The problem at this point is that now it's getting all... When you relight it this way, of course, you get the ashes flying everywhere. Oh, actually, the relight is actually a little bit better than the last, like, third. It's got a nice little spiciness, a little bit of chocolate. Maybe a little coffee. Man, I need a little more rum. So what else been happening this week? Oh, that guy Lou Ottens, he died, 94 years old. And Lou died in the Netherlands. He's a Nordic dude who actually was the inventor of the cassette tape for the Philips Corporation. And over the years, they've sold over 100 billion tapes. So all of those mixtapes we used to make when we were young, we got to thank Lou for that. Ooh, we need to move some of this. All right. What else is happening in the world? Oh, evidently Meghan Markle and Prince Harry had their big thing with Oprah. I didn't see it yet, but evidently it was pretty heavy. The royal family's racist. Prince William says they're not. I don't know what to think. Actually, all I could say was, well, Dodie and Diana. And also, evidently, Piers Morgan is not racist either. He just gets upset when people call him out. So evidently he quit his show, like, on the air almost. Something like that. I don't really pay that close attention. All right, taking off the band. Coming up towards the end. It's better now. After the relight, it's better. And then also, in more COVID news, the AstraZeneca vaccine has been put on hold in Europe. Evidently, it's been causing blood clotting in people. And I think people are dropping dead from the blood clots. So that's a bad thing. So they've kind of put that on hold to double check, and I guess they're going to see what's going on with that. And if you guys are familiar with that guy, The Weeknd, he's the guy that did the Super Bowl show, halftime. Evidently, his single "Blinding Light" has been in the top was in the top 10 of the charts for 52 weeks. For a full year, his song is somewhere in the top 10. And evidently, he is not going to be attending future Grammys because he's upset that they did not nominate him for a Grammy this year. Which I get he's upset about that. But the thing that I think you need to remember with the whether it's the Grammys, the Academy Awards, SAG Awards, or anything like that, it's less about your artistic performance rather than a popularity contest between the members. So one thing that we kind of don't really, I think as a public, we don't really know is that, and I'll take the Academy Awards as the big example, is that if you've reached a certain level in the motion picture business, you can then get a friend who's a member of AMPAS, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, to recommend you to become a member of AMPAS. And once you become a member of the Academy, there's a lot of perks. So one of the big perks for people is that you get free movies. Like, you either get screeners, like DVDs will be sent to you of any movie you want. You call them, hey, I want to watch this movie. They'll send it to you. Or with your membership card, they have a deal. The Academy has a deal with the exhibitors that if you flash your card at any movie theater in the country, you can get in for free. So if you're a movie buff, it's really a great deal. But if you're a movie buff, you got to be in the business. Anyway, so when the Academy Awards comes around, like you see all these things where you've seen the thing with for your consideration, right? So when a movie or whatever the award, the category of award is nominated, it's really just popularity. You know, the members will then vote yes or no for that category, or for whichever person was nominated. So it's really just a popularity contest in many respects. And I believe that my understanding is that all of the Grammys, the SAG Awards, and all that are all run in the same fashion. So I get why he's upset. The Weeknd. And Brian says, Fox said Piers Morgan's not racist, so he probably was. That's always kind of the big. If Fox says one thing, you know it's got to be the other. Also, Matthew McConaughey says that he's thinking about running for governor of Texas. I guess he's upset with the way they've been doing things, you know, with the whole power situation, and so he wants to be governor now. He might make a good governor. If I was in Texas, I'd vote for Matthew McConaughey. Why not? And then the Perseverance rover is out there on Mars, and it's sending back sounds of the rover zapping rocks. So it's zapping rocks and recording sound. So evidently, the Perseverance is the first real probe or lander that has microphones built into it so that it can get the sound. And it's the only place that we've sent any kind of vehicle that has sound, because, you know, if you're in space or on the moon, there's no atmosphere, so there's no way for sound to travel, right? The resonance doesn't happen. So I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know, we showed the preview last week for Coming to America, the second part. I haven't seen it. I was planning to watch it the other day, but like I said, I haven't really had a chance to catch up on any of the showings. But I've been hearing from friends that it's not very good. Like, it's kind of disappointing. And I think the premise is basically that Prince Akeem, or I guess he's King Akeem, so when he first came to America in the 80s, evidently he must have slept with someone and has a son that was illegitimate. And I think from my understanding, the storyline is about him claiming his son, his illegitimate son. Now, I don't really believe that. Like, that seems, considering the original premise of Coming to America, that seems rather implausible. Because while his father was convinced that Akeem was coming to America to sow his royal oats, that wasn't his intention. Like, he was there to find his queen, to find Sherry Headley and marry her, right? The McDowell's girl. So he never really, we didn't see him do anything but pursue the McDowell girl. So I don't know. That seems like a tenuous plot line. And this cigar is just not smoking very well. Like, it wants to go out. It's resisting me. It's causing that smoky chokiness. Like, I'm not really enjoying it now. Which I think brings us back to the question, the weekly question, would I buy it again? It's not bad. It's enjoyable overall. I'd say 80s. 950, box pressed, Robusto. That's kind of in my wheelhouse as far as price point, size, and shape. So I probably would buy it again. Like it's a decent price point, relatively enjoyable. It's a bit soft right here. It's soft, so that's causing draw problems. Like I'm drawing, but it's not flowing because there's not much resistance. It's coming kind of fast, so I'm actually inhaling part of it, which is causing the choking sensation. So the last third, like I could just toss it now. Which is kind of a shame. It smokes a little bit better if I squeeze, right? Squeezing here. All right, so I guess we'll put this down now. That'll be enough for this cigar. So that's good. That's good. So next week we'll be back again, smoking more cigars. So next week's on the 18th is going to be the CAO Arcana Mortal Coil Toro. What a tongue twister that is. Arcana Mortal Coil Toro. Then the 25th we'll do the Punch Kung Pao Toro. And also don't forget, we're coming up in a few weeks. We're going to be doing the Rare Leaf Exclusive Robusto with Aganorsa, and Michael King from Aganorsa is going to join us on the show. And we've also got the smoke set that's going to have the Rare Leaf tobacco, the Rare Leaf Robusto, with 2 tasting cigars like we tried it, like I was showing you that I was smoking at the factory. We're going to have those. We're going to be able to explore the flavors of the tobacco and then the cigar itself. So I think we're going to target towards the end of April for that. So be in touch with Raul. It's got the information down below in the show notes on how to order it, and it's going to be $23 for the cigars shipped anywhere in the country. So call Raul down below. But if you can pick it up in the shop, it'll be $15. So it's $15, and then the $8 is for shipping. So shipping goes anywhere. So that's going to be the deal. But other than that, thanks again for tuning in on another. Oh, here we go. Brian says $10. Well, yeah, $10. Relatively enjoyable. A tosser. Depends if you're British. All right, so thanks very much for tuning in. Really appreciate you spending another time on Thursday night with me, and we'll be back again next week. So have a great